For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar. For your Caesar. Cardiff City, get litty for your Caesar. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. For your Caesar. Grab a little something for your Caesar. We the geezers. Swagger stone cold like freezers. She want a diff boy. She want Starvz, not Fitzroy. She want a diff boy. She want Starvz, not Fitzroy. She want a big man. Says she want a man from...
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome back to the Terrace Take. It is Thursday, and it is time to talk about the League One campaign, which is less than 48 hours away, which is it's come around quick. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to see if Cardiff City are ready for the start of the season. As always, for the Terrace Take, I'm joined by Evan. How are you, mate?
Yeah, knackered, but in all the best ways. Just excitement, work, and a bit of everything, really. Just, I'm really optimistic, but I've been a lot quieter about this season compared to previous seasons.
Yeah, it looks that your camera's just fixed itself as well, magically.
Oh, yeah, I'm on 3 bars now instead of 1.
Perfect timing. So we had a few tech issues. My cat decided to break my lights, and Evan couldn't get a signal. So yeah, but we're here. We're ready. It's an interesting one. Looks like Cardiff City are going to have a new keeper. I'm not sure if it's been confirmed officially, but it's all but done by the sounds of it. Nathan Trott arrives. I don't think he'll go straight into the 11, but I mean, depends how much Brian Barry Murphy wanted him and wanted a keeper. Because for me, if he's identified him and like he's the guy, because the guys I've got are not good enough, I think there's a chance he comes into the 11 because goalkeepers are slightly different. Probably not. I'd lean towards that. I would probably think he'll be more likely to make his debut at Port Vale, if indeed he's not going to be a backup and don't know enough about him. I'm going to do a little recruitment report on him. Don't know when, but I'll find some time to do it. And yeah, it's interesting. But what do you make of that, mate? It's a new keeper.
Yeah, I got a bit ahead of the curve when I saw he was linked to it, and I put in the Discord for our members and saying like, I seen highlights of him in 2023, and what really stood out to me was his distribution was miles better than the keepers we have right now, and not just the accuracy of the passing as well, but the speed at which he makes decisions. I mean, you look at the current keepers right now, and one of them makes half decent decisions, but the other one really takes his time, and he really makes me panic. I just think you know what? I think he will go in the squad straight away. I think when you sign a keeper, like you said, it is different. I think because of when you bring a keeper in, right? You don't bring a keeper in to put on the bench when it's a name like that, when it's someone who's played at this level before. At least I don't see it. I mean, was it Alex Runnerson coming straight away, albeit he didn't work out at Cardiff. But other keepers as well, they basically went straight in because it's kind of like how the manager wants to play. And like your goalkeeper is kind of like your backbone of the whole system you've got. So I like to see him, I guess, he was on the bench, I think, the other day for Copenhagen, but I don't know if he played. But I think if you want to, chuck him in the deep end. But at the same time, I think it would probably be sensible to introduce him a bit later, let him get used to his players first, and realise that we do have still a bit of a dodgy back line at the moment.
I think the biggest issue, I guess, with chucking a keeper in is he's only 23 himself. I'll talk a little bit about him in a minute, but also the back line that we play on Saturday is looking like it's going to be 23, 19, 22, and 18. Like they are some young guys. He might play Darland, maybe. I don't think so. He doesn't seem to have featured much. So you'd think it's going to be Fish and Lawler, very, very young. And then if you chuck a new keeper behind them, is that going to make them? But then it might settle him, because one thing I noticed of the little bits I have watched of him so far is, he dominates his box for crosses. He's very mobile and athletic. He might be 26, not 23. Sorry, the keepers. So he's a good age. He's athletic, he's mobile, like you've already mentioned, his distributions.
Mm.
I speculated a bit earlier in the season because I feel like a lot of people feel like when you look at the issues in the squad, maybe keeper isn't top of the list, but actually it's really common for new managers to want their own keeper in because it suits the way they play, etc. But I also have said probably for the last God knows how like year or so that I don't think either one of our keepers are good enough. And
Not for number one.
Maybe we get away with one of them as a number one for the season in League One, but I didn't feel that they were good enough. So, you know, I think he's definitely in the squad. It's just whether he gets that start. I'm sure he'll train tomorrow if he's here. So it'll be interesting, mate, because Brian Barry Murphy is saying all the right things at the moment. He is captivating to listen to. And as a Cardiff fan, like it's so refreshing to hear someone so prominently, you know, like the face of the club effectively, talk so highly of the players, the team, the club, the fans. Like he knows he's doing a very good job, I think, of getting people on side. But ultimately, that won't matter if we turn up at 12:30 Saturday and we're absolutely useless. So got to back it up. I think he will, but he has got to back it up as well.
I think it would be either the case of we're either going to go play home to Peterborough and win 3-0, or we're going to really struggle to start with because of the different game. I feel it's going to be either two extremes, but I'm not saying we're going to either win 3-0 or lose 3-0. But I think, and again, a lot of these guys, they haven't played first team football that much anyway. I know they're young and they're exciting and it's great and I want to see those players. But it is going to be a shock because it's a completely different squad again. And all we've done so far is get rid of players. And, you know, when you take away a lot of times, it can feel like a negative thing to lose players when people say that. And I genuinely think that, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but goalkeeper for me was the number one position, genuinely because I feel like if you have a goalkeeper who's confident behind you, that puts the defenders a bit at ease and vice versa. I still think, obviously, you know, full back, centre back and other areas were a thing. But I think when you see a new goalkeeper come in, it's not a common change, or at least not for most clubs.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like both of our keepers in different ways make the defense nervous. And I think what was interesting the other day is that Matt Turner played. I forget which game it was now, but like that was a bit of a shock because I think everyone had assumed, you know, Howard, Alnwick, half a game each, ready for the season. So he clearly, for whatever reason, had question marks over them. Obviously, we've got to wait for the confirmation from the club, but the guy who had initially reported it, who by all accounts is reliable, as I said, you know, is all sort of done and dusted. So I think that's a good signing, good age, good skill set. Like I said, I'll do a much more deep dive over him, hopefully tomorrow, but like it will be out over the weekend probably. But got lots of stuff going on at the moment. So when you look at that side, so I kind of tie this in with a question which Nathan just had. So as Nathan Lewis. So Lewis had been waiting to ask this, Salic. Obviously, there was rumours that Borough were in for Salic. All I can tell you is what I've been told from really, really good sources. But that's all, you know, I can't tell you for definite because, look, historically, Cardiff take the money. I would always say that. But what I have been told from the get-go is he doesn't want to leave and he's not for sale. So it doesn't really matter. But I noticed that the club have put him up for the presser today. They've put him prominent on one of the messages they sent out yesterday. I would take that as a bit of a message personally, because if you're going to sell him straight after the Peterborough game, one, he wouldn't play against Peterborough, and two, you're not going to put him up in the press where he's going to be asked about it, which he was. So I think, yeah, it's one of them. I'd be shocked if we sold him or Ruben, to be honest. I think it's more likely we sell Dylan Lawler, if I'm honest, just because of his contract situation. But as I say, always, this club is a basket case. And historically, we do take the money. Now, if someone comes in with 10 million plus, I think we'll turn it down. I'm not sure. It'll be a big test of the resolve for sure.
I think sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on. No, go on.
I think the biggest sort of statement was, it wasn't even when the new manager came in. he already said before a new manager came in, saying how he's staying. And again, like that was so early, right? We just got relegated, and for him to come out and say that, along with another few players, it was nice and reassuring. But at the same time, we couldn't like trust anything because it was so raw. We literally just got relegated, and everyone comes out with it like, oh, we'll take some time off now and we'll train hard and get back into it. All players said that, Ramsey, O'Dowda, and other people. So like we couldn't really trust anything. But the fact that from the get-go he was so, set on, at least his mind was focused on Cardiff next season. Whereas I think a lot of players, their mind was set elsewhere, and you can't blame them to a point. But it just shows you how the mentality of certain players in this club, especially some of the younger ones now. We didn't have any of this last season for most players, okay? But, the fact that we haven't got almost any senior players now, it's almost like someone at the age of 24 is like a senior player for us. It just feels like they're given that unexpected responsibility.
Like on that, I would say, circling back to something you said about like the players we've left, like we've lost a lot of players. I think I said like the other week about it provides an opportunity for other players to step up. But equally, I think from a purely football point of view, not taking into account experience and stuff like that, just talking football, how Brian Barry Murphy wants to play and what we lacked in terms of some attributes generally as a team. I think we're better for the players that we've got rid of, if that makes sense. For instance, one of the things that I think we really have lacked is athleticism and mobility. And with the greatest of respect, pace, like with the greatest of respect, as good of footballers that they are, Callum O'Dowda, Rawls, Ramsey, Matty, that's not their most gifted sort of skill set, is it? Like physicality and athleticism and mobility and stuff like that. Not to say that they couldn't have contributed and they wouldn't have been good players, and they are good players, but just in terms of a general collective, Cardiff's mobility and athleticism was awful. And I think by having a young squad, that naturally will raise the floor of the athleticism of the team. Now, of course, you're going to have to take into account other things, like if things go wrong first half on Saturday, how will the young players react to what I expect to be a pretty full crowd? It's live on Sky. It's first game of the season. Brian Barry Murphy's first season. If we're losing 1-0 or something half time, how will the young players cope with that? And that's where you may have a problem. However, for instance, I think we'll go with Wintle and Eli King in midfield.
They could be like a two,
and maybe Eli will have a little bit more freedom to be more like a number 8. But it's going to be very young around Wintle, very young. Like it's going to be Ruben and Salic and Eli King and really young fullbacks. So what I think may happen is if it's not going to plan, or if we are, if they get a bit overawed or whatever, what you do have on the bench is Callum Robinson, Ollie Tanner, people like this who have played a lot of first team games, even though Ollie Tanner is still young. He's played a lot of championship football or to a certain degree. Like he's played. He's not like his first couple of games. Even Ronan Kapakio hasn't played a lot of championship fixtures. I think it was, forget now, I did a video on it the other day. I think it's like 3 or 4 games in the championship.
Mini cup games, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like there is a lot of youngs in there. But on the flip side of that, if they play to their potential and they play with the aggression and the freedom that they have in pre-season and they have in their little sort of cameos for the first team, it could be really exciting. And Peterborough, by the way, they leak goals, especially away from home. They finished 18th in League One last year. And when you look at the players they've lost over the last couple of seasons, it's quite frightening, like for them. Ricky J. Jones, Poku, Ronnie Edwards.
Has Cipriano gone?
Like Cipriano.
We tried to sign them, I think, or we were looking at them.
Like their squad is very young. They got some good players in and amongst it. They got a Welsh lad in defence, Nevitt. Chris Corn-Clark in midfield, who's very gifted. You don't want to give him too much space. Kean Hayes. I really like Archie Collins as well. And they've got obviously Abraham Ado up front. with a couple of others. Like they're not the Peterborough of a couple of seasons ago where they had Poku and Ricky J. Jones and Cipriano and Ronnie Edwards and all these players where you were looking at it, you're thinking, wow, if I stop one, there's going to come a threat from others. However, they will be up for it. They got a very experienced manager who has been very vocal about the fact that they're going to play attacking football no matter what. And even going away to Cardiff, they're not going to change the way they play. So for me, Cardiff, I think, need to be very careful on the transition, particularly because we are going to press high and we are going to be aggressive. And, you know, I'd expect us to perform more like we did against QPR. The manager's going to want to start fast. But I think there's a danger that if we do lose the ball high up, we might get exposed. So that's where Ryan Wintle is going to be really important.
I think the main thing is, right, the players have done all the preseason training they can. The manager's doing all the prep he can. The main thing is, like, the fans got to do their absolute best. Like what we had with that Swansea game, after the protest took place, fair play to the fans. They all got behind them and we won, I think, 2-0, 3-0, I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was the 3-0 game where Callum Robinson scored 2. And again, that was because Swansea couldn't handle the atmosphere there. We scored the second goal from a defensive error from Swansea when Callum Robinson got on there. And it's like, you think if he does that in League One, he's going to get 15, 20 goals in the season, or it doesn't have to be him, but it's like, it's those things like if we bring that atmosphere to the stadium, to our home games, because this is where we're going to catch other teams out, teams that will fancy trying to beat us or get a draw at least. Our home games, we have to make it a fortress, and I feel like we don't do that enough. Like partly because we haven't, summoned the attendance recently, but it's been horrible football to watch. I think just seeing such young faces and new people will give youth a bit more patience. Hopefully, I like to think, but I just think because it's such a fresh new start and a manager's given a 3-year contract, it feels like there's something more than just like, oh, here we go again. We'll wait till the manager gets a bad start, then we'll put the caretaker manager in charge and all that. And it's like, we needed to break out of that chain. And I feel like this season's going to be different, like a lot different to what we think for many reasons. I won't go into it, but I just think, it's just on us now. We've got to play our part. We've got to, say support the boys, make the noise. I know it's cliche and all that, but we're coming to a new league and teams are really going to try and get a win over us because we're one of the big targets.
Indeed, mate. And I think, look, teams will treat us as a cup final in many aspects. They'll look to get at us, especially earlier on. It's one of those. And also, I wanted to say a big congratulations to Manny Barton for signing his first professional deal. So he's gone from scholar to a pro. I was lucky enough to watch him on Friday doing the co-commentary on the under-21s versus Merthyr. And when he come off the bench, he was electric and he just frightened Merthyr with his just aggression, his directness, his skill. Scored a wonderful free kick. And I think that's the other exciting element at Cardiff at the moment is it's not just the young players coming into the first team. It's the ones underneath in the 21s and 18s. There's some really, really gifted players. Now, you don't know how they're going to develop this year in the 21s. I'm sure, I think the likes of Mafiko and Giles, they might go on loan because I think they're probably too good for the 21s, but they need a bit of men's football to help them get ready for the first team. But saying that, I don't know if you can let Mafiko go when you've only got Joe Bagan at left back. So
depends who he brings in. And again, it's not just that, it's late on in pre-season now, so they're not going to come straight. Well, I doubt they'll come straight in the first team. They're going to need time to gel with the players, and that's not always a guarantee either. We see some people, like especially left backs over the years, we've loaned them in. They either got injured and had to go back to the club, or you could tell they just didn't fit in. So that's the only worry now of signing quite late is the best deals are gone, and whilst there are always deals out there, I don't know.
I think loans are always late anyway because the youngsters tend to go on tour with the Premier League youngsters. They go on tour with the team, play a few minutes and stuff, and then when they get back, they tend to then sort out their loans. And I think most of Cardiff's business will be loans. I don't really
I'll be fine with that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, especially if you've got one or two youngsters within our group who are not nearly there, but not quite there, and they need a loan themselves, bringing in someone for a season who can play first team football now is good, and I don't think we're going to lack energy this year, which is something which I think we did and have done for the last couple of years. My two biggest criticisms have been the lack of energy and the speed at which we build up and play is embarrassing. Like, under Errol Bullock, with the greatest of respect to him, I do think that if we'd given him more time, he would have sorted it. But I don't think it would have been very enjoyable to watch. And I think it was dross to watch. It was difficult to watch. It was awful. Just sideways, backwards. There was no purpose to the passing. The only time where I was particularly excited under Errol Bullock's management was last year's pre-season. And he abandoned everything they worked on by halftime in the Preston game, first game of the season. So,
Sunderland.
Yeah, I just hope that I can't imagine that Barry Murphy would abandon anything, because I think he's very ingrained in the way he likes to do things. Lewis asked a question. I'm just trying to find it. What positions do you see us signing? What other positions do I see us signing? So I think we'll sign a fullback, whether that's a left back or someone who can play both. That would make the most sense to me, as a fullback who could play either side. Just to kind of give Joel Bagan needs competition, and you probably need somebody just in case, because you've got literal two kids on the right hand side until Perry and G's back, and you've got Joel Bagan, who is experienced, but he's still only 23. If he gets injured, you are literally looking at Joel Colwill or one of the centre backs or Mafiko. And Mafiko, I think, as good a player as he is, he hasn't always looked comfortable at left back, even though, he's got a skill set to invert and all the things that the manager wants. It's a tricky one. Like, if we think that we're only going to bring in a couple, where would you focus that?
So, 4 positions max, is it?
Yeah, so say 3 left after the keeper.
Yeah, so goalkeeper, obviously. Left back, definitely. I still think we need a winger, whether that's to play on the left or right, depending on, what foot they'd be and everything. I think Nyakua is really good, but again, it's like you need to take off the pressure from him, because it's not easy to come in as a winger, especially when it's a really fast and tough league. So I've said winger, goalkeeper, left back, and then I probably would bring in a centre back. I don't know whether it be a loan or whatever, but I don't know. Look, see, I know what people say about Grant Hanley and everything, and how Chambers effectively does the same role. My issue is I wasn't impressed with him last season, Chambers. So even if we were to get someone of his kind of caliber, I don't know. I feel like it's someone with maybe a different idea of how to play, because I don't know. I think he did all right at number 6, but he's not really a midfielder. I think he did all right at number 6, but it was only because he was that poor for centre back for me. But I really,
it was more of a necessity, wasn't it, last year? Though, when he went to number 6, it was because our midfield just kept getting cut open, and the defence was exposed. But I agree with you. I thought he really struggled at centre back last year. He got done for pace. He got rolled really easily, and he was, obviously he got sent off, didn't he, right at the end of the season by diving in and stuff. And my thing is, Grant Hanley, for me, he ticks all the boxes, but he turns like a truck. So you're kind of replacing one for the other. If Grant Hanley was to come in on less wages and then we moved Callum Chambers out, I think you can accept that on a financial basis, that trying to bring the wage budget down. Because what I don't think you can do as just a football club who's just been relegated, as money as finances are interesting, so we say, is I think I'm not sure you can have Callum Chambers and Callum Robinson on big money sat on the bench week in, week out. Just from a financial point of view, as much as fans and we all and a manager will want strength in depth and all that sort of stuff, ultimately those two are two of the highest paid players at the club. If they're going to be sat on the bench because there's better options in front of them, I'm not sure that will go for too long.
We need to stop signing players named Callum then, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's it. But I will say, I'm not completely sold on the Grant Hanley thing, and I don't think it's going to happen anyway now. It seems like that's
probably not now.
run his race and he's fallen through. But from a leadership point of view, I thought he was really, really good. But from a playing point of view, I could see big weaknesses, and I could see like a team like Peterborough, who might not be as strong as they have been previous years. Someone like Abraham Adoha or Jacob Wakelin, looking at, Grant Hanley, and then looking at all the young players around him and going, right, he's the one I'm going to go around and try and get him behind, because that's the sort of weak point in terms of pace and mobility. But I guess we'll find out, mate. I personally, I get a fullback. I think after that, I'm looking at, you need to make a decision on Chambers ultimately. I think if you're saying Chambers is the guy, he's your centre back, he's your experienced centre back, then you've got to stick with it. And if the manager thinks that he's good enough to do that, then I don't think you need to bring in another experienced centre back, because I think Dylan Lawler is good enough and needs to be playing. I think Will Fish is good enough to be an option. I'd probably look at moving Jesper Darland out, so then you could bring someone in.
It's a risk either way, though, isn't it?
Yeah, if I was bringing in someone for Jesper Darland, I'd be trying to bring in someone with a similar profile in terms of age. I wouldn't want to replace Darland with another, or with a sort of 32-year-old or whatever, or like a Grant Hanley, just as a hypothetical, because then you've got 4 centre-back options. One's a kid who, all right, we expect to do well, but still a kid. You've got 2 experienced options who lack pace and mobility, and Will Fish, who is good in a lot of ways, but also has weaknesses. I think that makes your defence weaker. Whereas if you bring in maybe someone similar age to Darland, but maybe a bit more accustomed to the physicality of stuff, it is definitely an interesting one. But either way, it all depends on the manager, not us. And I think he likes Callum Chambers, so I think Callum Chambers will end up being our experienced centre-back option. I think it's more likely that we see a Darland out and someone else come in for him. But I would definitely, we got to get a winger in. We haven't got like a real natural direct winger. We've got Isaac Davis, look really dangerous off the left. You've got Keane Ashford, who's more of like a playmaker type winger, which I think will do really well for this manager, but he's not an out-and-out winger. Nyagahawa, I think, I would love to see him start on Saturday, and I'd love to see the manager be brave and go, do you know what? You were really good in pre-season. Just go and be direct and skillful. Don't worry too much about all the tactics and the rest of it. Leave that for the rest of the team. You just play your game and see how he does. Because
that's it, isn't it? It's the trust, I think, that gives the players a lot more confidence and ability. I think with me, is again, I always refer back to this, right? So bear with me. Like I say, I'm a basketball coach player, and sometimes I chuck a youngster into the starting lineup. I know it's a different sport, but you can have rolling subs. But I just chuck them in the start just to see how they react and respond to it. And sometimes some people thrive by being chucked in straight away. Other players, you can tell they need, to be introduced a bit more slowly. But I think some players like that, you just got to just find out now. Find out early before we're either in a good streak or a bad streak, before anyone's really had time to get form. Just chuck them in early now, and you have to kind of, to some point, see if they sink or swim. And it's not so deep in terms of that. But if you find out, okay, that's a bit much for him, you at least from the start of the season, okay, well, he's a bench player at the moment. He's not quite ready. Whereas if you wait, like what Bullet did a lot and other managers have done, you wait until the season's pretty much decided, after Christmas, where most teams, roughly where they're going to finish, and then you start chucking youngsters in. It can work that way. But it's like, why not just start now before, the table says anything different? Because there's no pressure on the first game. Because, like, the first one loss isn't going to define the season. You see so many times, Christ, you look at, was it Middlesbrough a couple of seasons ago? They were top for a while. They still haven't gone up now. So, it's like, this is why I feel like chuck them in the deep end to start with.
Yeah,
but
it's a long
again, it's a lot to ask. Yeah, I just think you've got plenty of games, so...
Yeah, I'd like to start to see, like, if just give him a chance this first game and just see where we go, because he might surprise you. Jonathan says, "Am I on comms tomorrow for Cumbrian?" No, so I contacted the club to ask if we could cover it, and they said no. So there we go. What can you do? I would think that all clubs would want as much media on their teams as possible in it, but
Sorry, I saw Lee
Cardiff
Chad,
is unique in it. So there we go. It is what it is. There was another comment I wanted to get to, and I can't find it. But look, on Naikahawa, I think ultimately it'll depend on the fitness of some others. Like, it'll depend on the fitness of Isaac Davis. If Isaac Davis is fit, I think he plays on the left. I think he gives a bit more protection to Joel Bagan than Willock does. I'm surprised that I think Willock's been marginally better and the Brian Barry Murphy in pre-season from what I saw of him, but I just haven't seen what he brings really. But maybe he'll be too good for League One. You know, some players, they'll be too good for League One, but not quite at it for the Championship. So maybe he's one of those. It was Jamie Pryor said, who do we think will be captain and vice captain announced tomorrow? I think Chambers will be captain just because I just think he's the sort of obvious thing. But my worry with him is if Will Fish is at his best and Dylan Lawler's at his best, does Callum Chambers play? I'm not convinced he does.
It has to be 3 at the back to make it work. Otherwise, you give it to someone else, you know?
So I think the captain's got to be someone, or should be someone, who you pretty much are sure is going to start week in, week out. I think if you put it on Ryan Wintle, I do think it's a bit of a risk just because he's not the most popular, because he fell out with fans and blah, blah, blah. You got to give that time for him to get back in the sort of good books. And hopefully, you know, he shows the commitment and desire that he has in pre-season into the first few games. And it won't be an issue then at all. But I think making him captain would be a bit of a risk. And then you're kind of into the youngsters, unless you put it on Perry NG. But obviously he's injured at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, so they could kind of announce him as club captain, and then after that sort of go, you know, vice captain is blah, 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 and they'll be captain until Perry's back. You could do that.
What do you think about Joel Bagan?
Joel Bagan's not a bad shout. I think I don't mind that.
He's one of the more senior players out of all of them.
He's the longest serving player, isn't he?
Maybe that's the thing to hang on to. I think, Rhys said he thought it would be Yannick because he's now in, what was it, the Disability Trust?
The Disability Supporters Association, yeah. So they normally, the ambassador for that will be the captain, but I don't see it being Jack Alnwick simply because I don't see Jack Alnwick being...
It's a good shout, though, because,
and I mean, that's what normally is. Rhys is spot on. Like, that's normally what is the case. In terms of the younger players, Bagan, I think, is not a bad shout. I think Ruben's in the car. From what I've heard, it's between Ruben, Chambers, and Wintle. And there was one other, Salic. But apparently, and from what Salic said earlier, I'm not sure he'd won it anyway, which I was a bit surprised at. But maybe he just wants to focus on scoring goals, which
that's fine with me. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I think I would definitely, if it was me making it, I would definitely, Ruben would be the vice captain or captain probably.
Yeah.
And then I would have a leadership group of people away from that, of 3 or 4 players who kind of speak for the group, who, you know, are in charge of fines and standards and things like that. And in that group, I would include Dylan Lawler as a voice for the younger fans. Like, who would your captain be, mate?
To me, it has to be Ruben. Like, if it weren't for Wintle's little incident falling out, let's say, I would have given it to him. I think we'll see a lot of him this season. To be honest, if Eli King was with us last season, I would give it to him because I haven't always been. I didn't understand the hype for Eli King before, but I saw this pre-season. I really see how he can pass, and I remember you did a breakdown video on him and saying how good his passing stats are. And you're right; they don't lie. I mean, he can ping a pass, and he can, you do long and go short. I think he still needs to get a bit more stuck in terms of some of the tackles, but it seems to be doing that a lot more now. I think going to Ross County has really helped. for his development. So if he hadn't have gone low and he was already involved, I would have given it to Eli King. I genuinely think he's really good. He's a really level-headed guy. He's he's a Welsh lad as well, which doesn't always factor into it. But I think Ruben's got to be for me, and then vice captain you probably give to Chambers, or I would give Bagan maybe. I just think they're two quiet, confident leaders, I think, and they're fairly both consistent. And they're the two longest running, if I'm being honest, Bagan and Ruben, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, I'll give it to them. And I would say Salish because of his mindset and his hunger, but I think take the pressure off, the striker anyway. He's already got to focus on just scoring. I'd rather him just focus on, playing his position. I think because Ruben probably get more of a free roam role, he might benefit from being that confident, quiet leader.
So I've put a poll up. I just picked 4 players. I should have put 3 and then other, but yeah, just people can vote in the poll, and out of the 4, if you think it should be someone else, then go put that in the comments afterwards, and in the comments on the video afterwards, please do just put who you think should be the club captain this year. It's an interesting one because you got to take into account not just if they can lead well and if they're going to play every week, what their fitness is like. What you don't want is your captain just on the bench all the time or not in the squad all the time. You need the leaders to be lead. I do think Callum Chambers makes a lot of sense, but I just think he's also a weak link in the defence, which does the captaincy make him better or worse in that respect? Maybe it switches him on and gives him more responsibility and kind of that side of it. Or maybe it gets him more kerfuffled and he's making more mistakes and more issues. So it's an interesting one. Barry said Chambers would be my 6 rather than a centre-back for me. I just think, whilst I think Chambers as a 6 with Ruben and whoever as 2 8s, that could work. But if you're not playing a 4-3-3, with a single pivot, which it looks like we're going to play a 4-2-3-1 sort of thing, I wouldn't put Chambers ahead of Wintle or Eli King in that system. Now, if you had, say, a Turnbull and a Robinson starting, then maybe I might change my mind. But yeah, I just think Chambers, for me, I don't know, for the wages he's on, I'm not convinced. But can you imagine if we get rid of him now, if we were to sell him, say, this squad, there's no one, barely anyone over, age of 23, let alone 25. But like Steve says there, Chambers gets a lot of stick, but he's an ex-England international, Arsenal, Villa, League One. He should be fine. He's not 38. He's still got something in it. He's got to switch on, haven't he? I just think that was a big issue.
Look, I think it's easy to pass blame to him, especially because I think in defence, as a defender, you're going to get all the stick and all that. If a striker misses a chance, you get a bit of it for a time, but that's it then. Same with the keeper. It's if he lets in a goal, it's horrible feeling. I played goalkeeper when I was younger. It's not nice, but I think when the reason he gets a stick is because of where he's been before. And obviously, people don't understand sometimes you're not always going to be in your prime, but at the same time, to come down from Premier League and at least for me personally, the performances I saw did not reflect someone who used to be a Premier League player. As much as I know they're not going to be at that quality all the time, I genuinely was I was really excited when he came in. He was one of the ones I was most excited about because him and Willock, I actually recognized them, and to be fair, Al-Ghazi, but I don't know. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect that performance, as I say. But you never know. In League One now, he might tear it up. He might benefit from this. I hope he will. I don't wish anything bad of him. I just don't know. I'm uneased about it.
So a couple of comments. Bob Bank 27 says he'll give club captain to Alnwick and vice captain to Lawler. Alnwick won't play much, but it eases the pressure on Lawler, allowing him to grow into the role. See, I don't hate that idea. My only concern with it is I don't see them giving it to Dylan whilst he's potentially could leave for free or talk to other clubs in January. So that's my only sort of thing.
Might make another reason to give.
ultimately, if you make him vice captain and you say, look, this is how much we rate you. We want to build around you for the next 10 years.
It's got to be encouraging.
Yeah. Sav says Chambers has been flawless all pre-season at centre-back, to be fair. He's been flawless on the ball. His passing has been exceptional and he's been decent positionally, but I'm not sure he's been flawless in his actual defensive work. But I'd argue he's been better than Fish. Like, Fish confused me in pre-season because you put a ball in a box and he'll win it. Someone gets a chance to shoot and he'll block it. But positionally and like the football IQ side of it, I suppose, he just looked a bit all over the shop in pre-season.
Sandwich goal, wasn't it? Who did he collide with? I think it was Lawless, and it's like that's inexperience, like of nowhere to be. Again, I think it was a goal we conceded from a corner as well, and he kind of just stood there. And we, like, all the players did, to be fair to him, but he was at the front post. You expect him to sort of get something, but I think that will just come in this season. This is going to be a good season for him to get out of those bad habits. Because if we get back up to the Championship, we're going to be a bit more ruthless with our selection then, I think, compared to now, where people, or more or less everyone gets a fair shot at the start of the season. It won't be the case next season. So I think he'd be fine, but as long as, I'm sure he'd be coached out of those bad habits. I mean, BBM's not going to just let him forget it. Like,
so this is an interesting one. Emmy says Colwell's never a captain. He hasn't got the experience to shout at an older player and lead a team. So a couple of things on that. From my point of view, and people might disagree with this, I don't think that the best captain is always the one who's the most vocal and the most kind of shouting and screaming, because sometimes players can do that for show rather than actually meaning anything. And sometimes players do it so much, or individuals do it so much, that people stop listening because it's just like, oh, he's going off again. So, like, I think there is something to be said by a player can lead by example, and a player can lead by what they do with their quality and stuff like that. And they can still talk, but they don't have to be shouting and screaming. However, I do accept, like, Ruben is a pretty quiet guy, so maybe that isn't the right fit. But the reason why I think he's come up so strongly in these conversations on social media, on the shows we've done, I think I did a video actually on the pros and cons of whether he should be captain. Shout out to Steve Davis Evans, who did the graphic for that, of Ruben in a Captain Cardiff uniform. But Brian Barry Murphy, whenever he's talked about Ruben, and Brian Barry Murphy hasn't done a lot of talking in his time because he hasn't spoken to the media and he barely does anything on the channel. So on Cardiff's channel, but when he's spoken about Ruben, it's been such high praise, such like belief in his abilities and what he's doing and the work he puts in. And I think he even said something along the lines of he's the face of the new era of the club, or something along those lines, like paraphrasing. And that, I think, has made people think, well, right, he's clearly, one, he's trying to get a lot of belief into Ruben, and two, he clearly rates him. He's got a very young side. Ruben is very experienced for someone who's as young as he is. Like, he's not young, but he's still early 20s. And I think that's why. Now, it could go one or two ways. He could end up being like Matt Letitia, say, as in going back a bit for the older guys, who was a captain, never really screamed and shouted, but just led by example, was absolute quality. Now, that could happen, but it could also put too much pressure on him, and then he starts second guessing and trying too hard and making mistakes. Now, the Ruben that I've seen in pre-season, much like the performance from Cardiff City against QPR, that's what I want to see this season. And if giving him captaincy means that we get that type of aggression and work rate and pace out of Ruben all season, then give him the captaincy. If it's going to not, and it's going to have the opposite effect, then I don't want him to have it. But it is difficult because there's no obvious candidate other than Chambers, Alnwick. And I just wonder, this manager loves young players. That's literally his MO, is to work with young players, develop them, coach them. It feels like it would make sense for him to then pick someone on the younger side of the group. I know some people have said, give it to Dylan Lawler. I think that would be such a brave decision. And I don't hate it, but I think probably not the most sensible.
I think
option.
it says something. A quiet sort of person tends to be more responsible, I think, because he just gets on with training. I think, like with Willock as well, I think he's always quite a lad, and I know he's responsible. Unfortunately, I don't think he's exactly worked out last season for us. Maybe that will change. I don't know. But I think when I look at a lot of the quieter players who tend to train not on their own, but they just get on with it. They're not really. You could tell they're just in the zone. I think that's just sort of screams responsibility and accountability. He's not like trying to grab attention from everywhere. And again, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's like you can tell he's just focused on the game. And I think that's someone you can look up to, whether he's a leader on the pitch or not, a captain. Sorry. I just hope I'm well aware that they probably have conversations. Plenty of them saying, "Look, if you want captain, you can have it, but if you're not comfortable, then this is who I've got lined up." I'm sure they have some version of that. They're not just going to go, "Oh, he's captain. Let's see if he struggles or not." I'm sure they will have a methodical way about it.
That's interesting. Jamie Pryor just says, Steve Morrison said the best captain he ever had was McAnuff at Reading. Was very calm, not a shouter. Could be the same for Ruben. Yeah, I think particularly when you've got such a young squad, and I'm not convinced that we should give it to Ruben, but I can see the pros to it. But also, right, if you look at Dylan Lawler, Ronan Capacchio, Joel Colwill, Eli King, Joel Bagan, Isaac Davis, Kian Ashford, Mafiko, Nayakahawa, Matt Turner, all of those young players, right, who are in the first team squad at the moment, they all look up to Ruben Colwill. They all have seen him come through all the age groups. They've seen him do some incredible things, and they see him in pre-season coming back, looking bigger, faster, stronger, scoring ridiculous goals, playing consistently. Now, of course, it's pre-season, doesn't matter. I get all that. But what I'm saying is that's a big chunk of the squad that look up to him. And I've never heard any of the other players say anything remotely critical of him. So from that side, maybe it is a no-brainer. I just think it'll be a Chambers, an Alnwick, possibly a Wintle, which I find, me personally, I just find a bit underwhelming. But they're probably the safe choices.
Yeah.
It's just one of them, isn't it?
Can I bring up Steve's comment about captaincy here? Let Ruben concentrate on his game, captain not ready. My question then, not just to you, Steve, and again, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I just want to know, who do you think out of the players you got right now, who do you think are actually ready for captain? I mean, you say probably Chambers or Anik, but again, I don't think Anik's going to play that much, and I think Chambers probably is the obvious choice, isn't it? But I don't think we have many players who say you're ready. You kind of got to become it a little bit before you feel ready, maybe. I don't know. I mean, this club's changed so much so fast in good and bad ways. It's hard to sort of pick at someone and go like, oh yeah, he's ready for it now. Because like we haven't really got many like people over 25 years old. So I think we're really limited with options. I say limited with options, but we're no short of people who can lead. But yeah, people are going to step up, and I think Ruben's the obvious choice, or Chambers. But I don't really know who else, to be fair.
So I want anyone who would like to vote in the poll, do it now, because I'm going to close it in a minute. At the moment, Ruben Colwill and Callum Chambers are level on 35% of the votes. Ryan Wintle has 19% and Perry NG has 10%. So that's where it is. So like you say, it's quite a split. Ultimately, like they'll make the announcement tomorrow, unless it's Dylan Lawler. I think everyone will just get on with it. Like if it's Dylan Lawler, everyone will go, wow. But I would love to see an exciting young player get it. I think Alex Robertson could have been a good choice for it, but very poor in pre-season, being rumoured to be bids in for him. You don't want to give it to someone who then you're then going to sell a week later. So I think that's interesting. Ultimately, I just want 3 points on Saturday. That's the most important thing, is getting off to a winning start on Saturday, because Oh, so there you go. Not a bot says Ryan Wintel's captain. That's interesting because he's pretty reliable. I'm surprised by that, but not surprised in another way. But I think it's a risk. But yeah, we'll see. So not a bot is a guy on Twitter who leaks Cardiff City stuff. He's pretty reliable, in fairness. I have a very, very good idea of who he is as well. But there we go. That's for another day. No, I don't know who it is, but yeah, he knows stuff. And if he's definitely said like it is Ryan Wintel, and he's not sort of saying that's who his choice would be, then I would probably take that as who it is. But interesting, because I just think that's a risk. However, what it does show you is that he's probably right. I think it probably indicates where Brian Barry Murphy sees whoever the captain is. It'll give an indication of where he sees them in the pecking order. So if it is Wintel, then I would assume that he sees Ryan Wintel as his starting number 6, which is fascinating to me because I think a lot of people think that Cardiff have looked really good with Eli King in midfield, but then that's up to Eli King to kick on and
like you said, he could play both. We don't know his system.
Yeah, I mean, Eli can play as an 8 quite well, like as a box to box. So I don't think it's necessarily one or the other.
Well,
I think Eli King's going to play centre back anyway, mate.
Yeah, I've seen him in preseason play a bit that when they have the attacking wing backs really, but I mean, Mafiko's kind of inverts, and then Capaccio almost overlaps sometimes. So yeah, I've seen sometimes he drops in there, and again, I wouldn't be against it. I just hope that we don't play too many players out of their natural position, or at least just gradually implement it, because we did that last season. You saw where they got us. I mean, it wasn't just because of that, but there was a lot of chopping and changing. I don't think it gave people time to settle with it really. But no, like if Wintels is the captain, fantastic, fine. And I get behind him now. I hope we can put. I'm assuming he's come back with a much better attitude from what it sounds. I can put all that behind me now. But yeah, like I said, the main thing is just get behind him now. We have to. So that's all we can do now. And yeah, hopefully be a really packed stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, right. Last question then, Evan, for you.
Go on.
What have you made of Brian Barry Murphy overall since the day of his appointment to today?
I think, oh God, I feel like he came into the club thinking that he was going to get his sort of way with it, and he kind of has. But I think he's realised that he's had to take a bit of a detour. I got a feeling that the club probably had a certain vision of what they wanted from him, and he's had to spend a bit extra time to tear up the plan and redo it again. That's why I got a feeling why we've taken a bit longer to sign players or certain things. So I think, considering all that, I think he's done really well to get us prepared. I think he's done the best job he can, really. And that's, pretty much it. That's all I think, really. It's not much else I think you could really do when there's a lot going on behind. Well, I'm assuming there is. I'm still not convinced by a back line. But at the same time, you've got to keep some kind of experience there. So yeah, overall, I think he's probably done a solid 8 out of 10 job. But all pre-season is just pre-season, so you can't really say until we kick off, I suppose. But I'm happy. So
if we are able to play to the level that we played against QPR for the first half, say before the subs, if we play at that level and that way on Saturday, and generally that's like our level, then this season is going to be frighteningly exciting, because I don't believe that people quite realize, because it's pre-season, you kind of don't put too much on those performances. But for me, it wasn't about like individuals, or it wasn't even maybe about how dominant we were, which we were so dominant. It was the way that we played, the type of football that we played, the movement off the ball, the patterns, the structure of the team. Everybody looked, and everything looked like it was well coached, well drilled. Everybody knew what they were doing. Everyone knew where they were supposed to be at certain times in the transitions. It was all just so well drilled. And to get to that from a few behind closed doors friendlies and a training every day, double training each day and stuff, that's exciting because that shows that he's a really good coach. Now, after that, we had Notts County, which I think we got physically dominated in the second half. So you have to accept that as well. But I thought the performance in the first half against Notts County was decent. We still did see those patterns. We still tried to move the ball quickly. What was the most concerning thing for me from Notts County wasn't that we got physically dominated, because I think we have to accept that if we've got a young team, that's going to happen sometimes. It's how you deal with it. What concerned me was that when we got physically dominated, the back line and the deeper players went back to taking 9-10 touches and trying to like slowing everything down. Whereas against QPR in the second half, when they really pressed upon us, you had Bagan and Lawler and Chambers just doing little one-touch triangles and then switching the play out to the right back. The keeper, they do you know what I mean? Like they just played their way out of it calmly, quickly, but it was minimal touches. I don't want us to get back into bad habits, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Make them do the running. Ball moves faster than you. And I say, like, if it takes, I think it's, again, with the fans, got to be a bit patient. We're so used to seeing this paint drying football, which I call it, passing around the back and not get anywhere. We're going to see a little bit of that at least during the first few games or during the season. But you've got to realize there's method to all the madness, like you saw with the QPR goal. I keep going back to the Ruben Colwill screamer. It was like, it wasn't just his screamer that was so good. It was the Dylan Lawler pass through the middle that really cut open the attacking line, and all of a sudden we've got an overwhelming advantage. And it's going to be those patient builds up that actually have some kind of method this time, not just passing for passing's sake. But at the same time, you know, I do expect us to start fast, to start aggressive, like we did against, you know, Notts County and QPR. And, you know, I think it's going to be a rocky season. I think we'll get a playoff push. You know, I let myself get carried away, say we're going to win the league and come second. I just think we're a few signs away yet from that kind of level. But, you know, I'm still optimistic.
Yeah, so the poll, I just closed the poll up. It says, who do you think Brian Barry Murphy will appoint as the club captain? It finished off with Ruben Colwill on 36, Callum Chambers on 36, Ryan Wintle 18, Perry NG 9. So yeah, look, it's close. Sounds like there's rumors that it's wide. Ryan Wintle. I'm gonna have to go check my texts, but for me, ultimately, I just think let's be patient with this manager, because I believe if we can hold on to this manager for 2 or 3 seasons, Cardiff City will be in a much better state because of it, on and off the field. We just, as fans, have to have the patience to just bear with it a little bit. We've got young players. These are young, homegrown players in them, large. They need a bit of time. They're going to play one great game, and then the next game it might be a bit, you know, you've only got to look at young Will Spears, right? He made his debut the other day for the first team, looked electric. A lot of people saying, wow, he looks even better than Capacchio. And then he came on against Notts County, really struggled positionally. Now, I think part of that was, I think part of it was because he was playing as a back 3 and he didn't quite get it, and he was. I think
he overcommitted a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
He wanted to show how good he was, which is great. But I think he sort of got caught out of position a bit too far forward, and you know that's the thing. We've got to keep our heads as well, like, because if we get scored on first, how are they going to react? And that's the thing. Yes, hopefully Winter redemption. Okay.
He's got a long way to go, in my opinion, but we'll see. We'll see. Because my thing, and not just with him, with a couple of others as well, is it's all right being all motivated and having the right attitude now when the new manager comes in and pre-season and start. I want to see whether you still got that attitude 10 games in. If things aren't going to plan, or they are going to plan, but you're not in the first 11, that's when I want to see what your attitude is like and your mentality is like. Last couple of questions. Robertson, I think Nathan asked about it as well. He had stitches in his leg. So I
saw him the
don't
other
think
day.
Alex will play. Yeah,
he's had
Evan's
a
new best
bandage up.
mate, isn't he?
Honestly, yeah. No, I saw him. I served him in work, and I saw he had his. I was like, "Is that him?" And I was thinking, I looked at his leg, and I saw his bandage up. I was like, "Yeah, that's him." So yeah, don't think you'll be there just yet. But I'm not his physio, am I? So
no, from what people I spoke to, like Alex he is trying to get fit for Saturday, but I think the sensible thing is probably for the cup game. It's just a deep cut. Like it was a horror. By the way, it was a ridiculous challenge for a pre-season game. Absolutely ridiculous. And if his leg had been planted, that would have been a broken leg. So yeah, that's not.
He was
great.
reckless himself, but he
but he didn't. I didn't think what he was doing was dangerous. It was like petty, stupid.
It was
fouls
petty and it was silly, but yeah, that was a dangerous one on him.
Machination wants to know, what did he buy?
It literally, right. So he bought some chewing gum because we needed to give him cash back, and then we ended up couldn't do it. So
yeah, no wonder he's not your friend.
See, that's why I messed up his order. Well, it was all our fault, to be fair, but I technically messed it up. So
Josh says, what do we think about Turnbull? I think with Aaron Ramsey only showing rumbles at a player that doesn't want to be here, this could be the making of Turnbull. So Alex Robertson, sorry, not Aaron Ramsey. I just don't know about Turnbull. Like, he's got all the qualities, but I just haven't seen him really get older again. Like, I would like to see him. I hope he starts in some ways again, alongside Wintle or somewhere, or King, and he just really gets hold of the game and dictates the play and dominates it. And we're all like, yeah, that's what I do think he's been played out of position as well, which I don't think has helped him. I think he's an 8 who likes to sit in. So
I really hope he comes good. I've always been I wasn't a fan of him to start with, but I kind of see where he's best at now, and I think he's a good set piece taker. I think we wasted him for not using him as that.
Yeah, he should have been taking a set piece.
Half the people couldn't even cross, couldn't even reach first man, or they'd overhit it. Whereas he was fairly consistent. He's got a nice bit of curl on it as well. Put him on set pieces, like start him in the match, but. Again, he's never really had a run of games apart from that few with Alex Robertson and Rhys, and that's why I thought he really did well then. But there's a long season, so he's got plenty of time. I just hope he doesn't just get used for cup games and then he's on the bench for the rest.
So we're going to finish with these two questions. Bob Bank wants us to name our first 11 and subs for Saturday. But before we do that, it'll kind of tie in. Bob Bank also said, not fussed if Robertson's fit, means Joel Colwell's on the bench. So I'm going to shock some people now with my lineup. But you do your lineup first, mate. What would your 11 be for Saturday?
First of all, Dan, I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to work, where I work, because I'm not doxing myself, but thank you. So my 11 be Trot. Oh, actually, no. First game, I'll pick Anik. I would go back for a Bagan, Lawler, Fish, and Capaccio. I would have, I'm assuming Wintle's going to start. So I'll have Wintle, King, and Ruben Colwill. Then a front three of Salic. I heard Isaac Davis is fit, so I'll go with him. And, oh Christ, I forgot who plays on the wing. We've got Niakua. Yeah, why not? Just let's chuck Niakua straight in there. He can, if... Let's see what he does in his first game. And worst case, he comes off for halftime or 60 minutes. No pressure. Just tell him to go out there and express yourself and do whatever. And do your best. But that'll be my 11.
So this is what my 11 would be. What I think Brian Barry Murphy will do will be in the preview tomorrow. If I was picking a team, I would pick the new keeper. Fuck it, just chuck him in.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, he's got to get used to it, so we may as well just play him. Joe Bagan left back, Capaccio right back, Dylan Lawler, and Will Fish. And then I would go Eli King and Joel Colwell with Ruben Colwill in a 10. Isaac Davis left. I would go with Kean Ashford on the right.
Oh yeah,
because I think that will get the best out of Capaccio in an attacking sense. And then I would go with Callum Robinson up front. Yusuf Salic is going. He's not. I'm joking.
You said that so like straight faced. Then I was like, wait, what?
Yusuf Salas up front, of course. Just kidding. And then you've got a really good bench because you've got you've got Wintle, you've got on my bench, you've got Wintle, you've got Naya Kahawa, you've got Tanner, you've got Callum Robinson, David Turnbull, you've got Darland, you've got Spears. I would have Spears on the bench, and I would have Naya Kahawa on the bench. And if Joel Colwell's not in the starting 11, I think those three players absolutely should be on the bench because I think they offer something late in games. Joel Colwell's energy and aggression in midfield. Spears is a great option if you need to be a bit more aggressive and Kipakio's tired. And even if he's not, you just need to give him a break. You could put in Joel Colwell or Spears in the right back option. And Naya Kahawa, if you need a goal, is someone who can create something out of nothing on that right hand side. So that's where I would go. I would like everyone to chuck their 11s in the comments on this video after we finish, because they all disappear after the show, so the live chat is wasted. Matthew, you're banned. Get back on your holiday and enjoy your sunburn.
Hope you do all right, mate.
Absolute bell. Matthew decided to go on holiday to a really hot place and then not put sun cream on. Dick.
It's not fun.
He gets no sympathy, mate, from me. Absolutely
fair enough.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Some people just gotta screw around and find out, haven't they? It's just some people that have to do it. So
he's hardcore. No, and you got Willock on the bench as well. So that bench would be insane. But as we're finishing now, don't put your team in the chat because it's all going to disappear. Put it in the comments on the video after the show. Evan, as always, a great pleasure to join you, mate. Why don't you tell me what you think the score will be on Saturday?
Oh God. I think Peterborough, we'll definitely concede a goal, but I think we'll win 3-1. I just don't see us keeping a clean sheet for the first one. But yeah, 3-1, I'm confident. And I think who's going to score? I think it's going to be Salek in the second minute, Salek again by halftime, and then Salek again just because
Salek,
I think Salek got a hat-trick already. Yeah. I think he's going to have that support, like, Ruben playing. Ruben's going to get an assist, and then something else will happen. But
yeah, their chemistry in pre-season has been real good. So I wouldn't be shocked if Salek bags a couple. He's going to score a shitload of goals this year. If you would
bet on him to score first game, wouldn't you? Probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, mate, I would bet on if he stays at Cardiff City. If he's at Cardiff after the windows, I would bet him to be top scorer in the League One. I don't even think it's going to be close. I think the biggest threat to Cardiff City this year in terms of if we do get going and we were to be anywhere near the top of the league is Stockport. I think Stockport have got a really good team.
Good manager.
Really well run.
Steve Talner's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, there we are.
Yeah,
right.
3-1,
Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Evan, a pleasure. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with a preview, so make sure you check that out. I've also got a video coming out on Dragon Sports tomorrow, lunchtime. Can you all please go watch it, comment on it, like it, give it all the views, all the traction. Help me out a bit. I appreciate you. So until then, we bid you farewell. Nice one. Keep the faith. See you in a bit.
Rascal Beats.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar.